Right, welcome back to the channel and testing the tips where I, as an average golfer, very much like you, try some of the tips from the leading golf YouTubers out there. They're tips and drills and ones that I found particularly useful. And today I'm going back to a channel that I really like, Eric Golf. Got some great coaching and tips for all kinds of golfers, all types of skill levels. And this particular drill has been designed for older golfers or senior golfers, as they put it. But I think, to be honest with you, a lot of what you see in today's video can apply to a lot of golfers, not necessarily just seniors. And I'm going to break it down into sort of 3 or 4 different segments, because there's a lot of content within this 17-minute video from Eric, and I'll try and strip it back for you. And we'll get straight into it. The first thing this thing focuses on is about flexibility. Our ability to sort of maneuver. The golf swing gets a little bit more difficult the older we get, but like I said, there's plenty of younger golfers also struggle in terms of flexibility. So like I said, this will apply. So they talk first of all about very basic setup positions and how you can make some slight changes to make life just a little bit easier. The first one being the sort of the position that we see Rory in will be very much a sort of strong foundation, very much a straight back. He looks superb at address position, but he's very much more athletic than most of us will be, and that causes a few restrictions. Eric talks about, or the guest on his channel does at least anyway, about a slightly more hunched back, if you like, just giving a little bit of more of a relaxed feel. And if we go back to golfers like Jack Nicklaus, for example, then they would literally, that would be the standard position that they would adopt very much in their youth as well. So having this kind of more relaxed effort at address, relaxed setup at address, weight and backside predominantly just over their heels, little bit of flexibility in the knees, and like I said, just that slightly hunched over position. Don't be afraid to do that. It just gives us that little bit more maneuverability and flexibility first of all. That one's dead simple and straightforward. The next thing he does is talk about this rear foot and how we can make an adjustment and take it backwards again to clear a little bit of room in a path to allow our shoulders to turn that little bit easier. As you know, we would naturally look to stand with our sort of 2 feet parallel to target. What that does is when we start to try and move the top half, if we're kind of keeping this base fairly still and stable, then again, flexibility becomes an issue. So we've seen this before on the channel. I'll do it that way for you to get a better view of it. There's a suggestion that there's no harm in moving that right foot further back. He talks about the kind of, not the worst case scenario, but the furthest back I suppose you could take it is as far as your right toe being in line with your left heel. And that would be for something like driver and give you real room to sort of turn into that backswing. And to be honest with you, you'll see me hitting some shots now on screen where all I've done is adopted these 2 principles. And what's really interesting for me is that by pulling the right foot back, I would have thought it would have a negative impact on my swing path. In fact, it doesn't impact it at all. And 3 fairly straight shots that I was really pleased with, and contact. So they're 2 very basic elements of the setup that we need to get right before we go any further in what is definitely the easiest swing in golf. Now, one of the points to mention is that the sort of positive impact that has is it gets our sort of hands behind us further away from the ball, which is creating naturally some more club head speed. The opposite to that, of course, is swinging very much upright. Now, that upright position can be pretty deadly in terms of the negative impact it can have on a swing, either sort of pulling left, or the alternative to that is that sort of slice over to the left-hand side. What this is going to do is, by having our hands, hopefully, again, as Eric explains, somewhere near the right heel in terms of where they're over, and any further back than that is a sort of bonus and depends very much on your flexibility. But what that gives us is, like I said, a little bit more space. The hands are traveling a little bit further away from the ball, and it just generates that club head speed. So one thing it will certainly help with, again, not only just maneuverability and that sort of restriction element, it will also naturally increase club head speed and potentially a change in your shot shape as well. Coming from that kind of path is potentially going to increase the chances of you hitting more of a draw shape. So the next stage is we need to generate perhaps a little bit more hand speed, club head speed, by using the hands a little bit more in our swing as we get a little bit older. Now I'm kind of I'm a bit on the fence with this one. I think it can also be a little bit dangerous, and you've got to make sure you practice what I'm about to show you in terms of this drill that we look at. And for that, you need a T-peg. You place the T-peg inside your thumb and forefinger, as you can see, and address the ball as you normally would, and that T-peg is facing forward, facing at the ball. What we're then looking to do in the backswing is make sure that T is then pointing towards you. So it's encouraging for that kind of L shape, and make sure we're working the wrists in the backswing. So that's pointing straight at me. And then through impact, we're going to do exactly the same thing and make sure the T-peg is pointing at me on that follow through. Now what you'll realize is that if you've, as I found at least anyway with the practice shots that I hit, certainly on the follow through, I found that quite an uncomfortable position to be in. As always with testing the tips, the idea is not for me to sing the praise of every tip that I find, but certainly highlight what I experienced when trying them. But having tried it for a few times, I then started to get a little bit more comfortable with the idea. And what you do realize is that you do start to generate more club head speed with the use of the hands. So where we've lost a little bit of flexibility, where we're losing a little bit of that ability to generate power in terms of the flexibility, we're increasing it a little bit with the ability to work the hands a little bit more. So let's see if we can do that whilst the camera's on. So let's not forget to take the foot back at me and at me. And that was a real crisp strike, to be honest with you. It's more noticeable for me when I'm swinging through. That's a real decent shot as well. What a great golf hole this is on TrackMan, just to get a visual. I notice as well, when most people do these videos, they never show you where the end result is. I seem to put more pressure on my channel where we actually see where the ball finishes after I try the drill. So it's a great one. It takes a little bit of work, a little bit of getting used to, but it certainly generates, or sort of works the hands a little bit more than perhaps that you would ordinarily. So make sure you give that one a try. Right, final piece of this jigsaw, once again, to just generate that little bit more distance, and that is the ability to try and hit a kind of that draw shape as opposed to that weak fade. And all we're really doing now is working with exactly what we started with, so kind of foot back, that's a more relaxed effort within the shoulders. We're still going to work the wrists in the same way with the T drill. The one thing we're going to change, we're going to move the ball backwards in the stance. Now all that effectively does is give you the option to hit a shot shape that is right to left by changing the sort of the club path slightly in the ball, or where we're making contact in terms of the low point as well. So as you can see, ball quite a bit lower in my stance, hands still fairly forward. We're trying to keep all the other drills exactly the same. And then we're starting to see the ball work a little bit. Well, that's straight. It certainly wasn't right to left, but what it's certainly doing is it's a solid contact. It's not a weak strike, and it's certainly not a fade. I'm going to try that one more time. Foot back, ball right in the back of the stance. I'll just try that again, I think. Again, really, everything throughout the throughout this whole process, what I've really liked, and why I say it's not just necessarily applicable to senior golfers, I think all these positions are quite key to making sure you make good contact. I've only been using irons. It'd be interesting to see how this translates into driver, but it's very much an iron swing at this point, and I like the position of the ball being back in the stance. It certainly changes my whole swing and a contact point. So I'm going to try one more. That should have been that sort of, felt a lower, punchier shot. It was really nice, this sort of angle I came in at. And yeah, just really, really decent results. So I'm going to leave it there. If you want to see the more detailed approach from Eric Cagorno, I'm sure that the link is down below. And like I said, he'll give you a much better explanation than I've given. This is simply my interpretation. Don't let this be confused. I'm not trying to tell people how to play golf. I'm trying to direct people to videos that have helped me, and I've seen a significant change in my results by adopting what they're suggesting. So my recommendation is certainly go and give that one a go and maybe take elements from it that I think could help you out. But it's certainly the easiest swing changes that I've made to have some positive results in a very short space of time. Right, as ever, thank you for watching, and make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and give me your feedback down below in that comment section, and I'll see you soon.